Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So, they say that in order to be an entrepreneur, you got to be rich and have supporting parents and have very stable financial situation. That's definitely not my story. So I studied computer science because since I was a kid, I was interested in computers. I like playing video games. So my interest in computers was disassembling and assembling computers back and playing video games all night long. And then I decided, well, I want to have a job because I also like philosophy, for instance, but I wasn't able to get a job, especially not in Spain because we were in the crisis, right, in 2008, and even though Spain has always been in a crisis. So I decided to go for computer science. That brought me to study and then work for Deloitte, because back then, like almost 10 years ago, the only way you could get out of the university and have a stable job and get a first job in the market was to go into consulting, right? Into the big, like banking, insurance, or the big four, so Deloitte, Accenture, McKinsey, all of these consulting companies, right? Even though it sounds really boring now, it was even more boring back in the day because there was no alternative. Now there are luckily startups, but when I started, there were no startups, right? And so for me, it was kind of like a way to learn how to do things, because I think that in the corporate sector, I learned a set of skills and hard skills that I wouldn't have learned otherwise, as in like how to be formal, how to be on time, how to lead and maybe manage meetings and teams, and how to talk to really other big corporate clients. Also, I learned how not to do things, right? And that's what it brought me to create my company with my two best friends.
But Deloitte was your first working experience, yes? Or
Kind of. No, because my family is very humble, so they have their own family business. And so as a kid, I grew up always in the store, so to speak, right? So I had to help here and there, and kind of like I grew up by working in different family businesses. I also freelanced a little bit through the university because I knew I wanted to travel a lot, and my parents were not gonna give me any money for that. So I said, well, then I will make my own money. And if some of you remember back in the day, like 20 years ago, well, you all look very young, but there was this trading card game that's called Magic the Gathering. Raise your hand if you ever played that. No one played Magic the Gathering? Jesus Christ. Anyways, so there was this trading card game, right? And which had creatures and power spells and things like that. Yes, I'm a bit of a nerd. I study computer science. And so these cards, they even had their own market. So we would trade them, but some people would buy them, and some of them were ridiculously expensive. Like some cards would be like $10,000 worth of it, right? So I made a lot of money by buying these cards and selling them again. So I've always been the kind of person that knows how to generate business. And that taught me a lot. And your question was, sorry, I went off.
if Deloitte was your first working experience?
No, that's why. So, and then I went on an Erasmus to Germany. I went on this student exchange program to Germany, where I ended up staying for 2 years because I sort of got a job by writing my thesis at the university itself, but they had like a spin-off company. So I worked there for a year. And then I moved back to Barcelona and started working at Deloitte.
And how much time did you work at Deloitte?
My initial thing.
Can you tell us about your career in the company?
Yeah, definitely. It's not as interesting as it sounds, but after 2 years of being in Germany on a student exchange program, which basically means getting wasted every night and eating a lot and doing lots of partying and faking that you were studying and getting shit done, I decided to go back to Barcelona because it was difficult to get a job in Germany if you don't really speak German very well, and I didn't feel comfortable in the way they work. Like developers in Germany, they work in a very different way than we do in Spain, right? So I said, I'm gonna go back to Barcelona for a year or two, get some experience, and then maybe move to another country, right? And that never happened. I stayed there. So I went back in 2009. I started at Deloitte as a junior programmer, but I had been programming since like age 12. So I was definitely not what you would call a junior, but by their standards, as you have never worked before. I said, I worked in Germany, and they said like, oh, but that's not Spain. So I work as a freelance here. It's like, oh, but freelance doesn't count. I was like, what the fuck does it count, right? It's all, maybe this only count if you have worked in this very company, right? So I started as a junior developer, and so I was a junior developer with a junior salary, and I had to go with a tie and a suit.
How much did you earn?
It was really bad. I think I started earning like 13,000 a year, which is
And per month, how much?
per month. I think it was barely 600 euro per month, and that's not enough to live in Barcelona. Let's say, right? If you want to share a flat or something, because I think the average rent of a room was between 300 and 400. So you would be using like 80% of your salary in just the room, which is totally wrong.
Nothing for parties.
And nothing for parties, of course. And so I had to move back to my parents, and that was really bad. So my story at Deloitte is I was very lucky because contrary to what most people experience at companies like this, I was not doing overtime, I was not working a lot because I was assigned to a maintenance project. It was a project that was great, it was good, it was interesting, it allowed me to grow and learn some other things that I hadn't learned before, but it didn't require that we worked over 8 hours a day. Whereas all my other colleagues in other projects, they're like working till like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, things like that, right? Pulling like crazy hours and doing the crunch. That was luckily not my case. That's why I always say that I'm also happy of the time I spent there, precisely because I think in 2 years, almost 2 years I spent there, I think I did like 4 hours of overtime, which is nothing. Yeah, especially in the corporate world and in the big consultancies, right?
And how you work promoted to business developer?
It was sort of it's difficult because they don't even know what so the roles you get there was, I think the name was e-business consultant or something like that. I started as a Java developer, and I don't recall having been business developer there, but kind of like consultant, like business intelligence consultant. I think it was the right role, and it's because essentially there it's not so much as a technical career. You do develop, but what you're doing is more consulting, as in go meet the client, take definition of projects, negotiate here and there, change up scope of the projects, negotiate other projects. So at the very end, what you're doing is putting up with the shit of the clients, right? And you spend more time in meeting rooms than actually working. So that's supposedly what they call business intelligence, maybe. And that's why I decided that was probably not my thing and that was my right time to quit. But I did discover that I enjoyed a lot doing the part of meeting the client. Just not in the way that they were doing it, because it's entirely not efficient. Like meetings that were 4 hours long, no agenda, everybody with the laptop, the client wouldn't show up, or they would show up and complain about everything or change completely the scope of the project, and you had to be like super supervision, the client is always right, and things like that. So that's why I said I like this kind of job, but I don't like the corporate values of this company.
And you decided to start your own company?
Before that, I went to another consulting company. That was it's called VAS, so it's a Spanish consulting company, and there it was more like business development. So I also started as a developer, but it's kind of like the most chaotic company I've ever crossed paths with. It was really interesting because I was hired for a technology, and the first day they said, okay, we don't have projects with this technology, so you'll do this other thing, which was slightly related, right? And I said like, oh, great. From day one, I knew this was going to be fun. This was going to be quite the ride. It was a company that experienced a big growth. They won like big contracts and tenders, public administration, some really big companies, and we went from 20 people to 100 plus in over a year and a half. With experienced people, that's great, and probably that's the part of the video they will not like, but all the owners of this company and the managers, they had never been in a big company, and you could freaking tell, because when shit hits the fan, if you're experienced and you've done this in other companies and that you have learned, you know how to operate, and they were just running around like headless chicken. Nothing made sense anymore. Like the company was, I don't know how it managed to stay afloat, but like people, everybody was leaving the company, would hire somebody, would leave the next week, things like that, right? But it was fun, and that company, for instance, I did a lot of overtime, but I felt like I had an impact, as opposed to with Deloitte. where you're just a number in a company that is like 20,000 people, right? My email address was Àlex Rodríguez 23, something like that. So at Deloitte, yes, right? And in this other company, I went from a developer, being not senior but intermediate developer, to like the functional responsible or functional manager of all the web development projects in a couple of years, right? So that was great because when I came with suggestions, improvements, new workflows, new tools, they would accept them, would implement them. So like I feel like I have an impact in this company, and I implemented certain things and tools and things like that they still use nowadays. So that's what makes you feel good. But then again, I also learned how not to do things, and that inspired me to create my company.
You could do mistake in another company.
At least if you create mistakes and you commit mistakes in your own company, it's like they are my mistakes. I will learn from them, and you will see they have like a financial impact maybe, or you will lose an employee or something like that, or you lose a client maybe, but they are your mistakes, right? But then again, also on the flip side, if you do something that's hugely successful, it's all yours, right? So it's very important. This good friend of mine, Howard Love, is an international investor from Silicon Valley. He says the cost of learning or education goes up exponentially after university. Why? Because when you fuck up after university in your company or in your own company or in your family, whatever, it's just super expensive, and it will be 10x, 100x more expensive than paying for the university. So
That's absolutely true.
that's very true.
And how did you came up with the idea to open MarsBased, your company?
That's a good question, and it does not involve alcohol or a party, but
Does not.
what is that?
Does it not?
Or maybe not yet. So one of my, the saying that goes like you should never create a business with your best friends or your family. I did all of this and it's always gone well for me. So fuck this advice, Sorry for the blasphemy. I'm like that. You can censor it out in the video like beep. I'm this kind of person. So it started that with my three best friends. And the moment there was one of them, we were meeting regularly since I came back from Germany, and we were meeting regularly to have a monthly dinner to just kind of like catch up on life. And one of them was always pushing like we should create a company. For like 3 or 4 years we ignored him, because the other three we were more interested in other aspects of life. Partying was one, and so we kind of like never grew interested in creating a company. But at a certain point in our professional career, we were so fed up with the manager, so with the companies we were working for, with our managers, or the way that consulting works generally. And we said, okay, let's create something. So we sat down and we thought about creating a product, because the first thing, at the moment, kind of like startups were kind of exploding in Barcelona. Everybody was starting to create a startup and this and that, and we had companies like, maybe that are relevant, you might know here, maybe you guys know Typeform. Ever heard of Typeform?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great company that is from Barcelona. No one knows they're from Barcelona. Everybody thinks they're from the US, but they're from Barcelona. So companies like Typeform and other companies that nowadays they're really successful. And we were sort of inspired by that. So let's create something. So we kind of like sketched some ideas. We tried a project, didn't go well because we didn't even commit to it too much, right? It was a project for social entrepreneurship, try to create change in your neighborhood by having voting and collaboration between neighbors. The idea was great, but the timing was just not good and we didn't execute it properly. Anyways, well, that was just a draft. It didn't even become a serious thing. Then we tried to create a social network that connected consumers and producers of bio and ecological food. Do you know of any social network that connects bio and ecological consumers and producers nowadays? Know any? No? Okay, if they're not successful now, why the fuck should they be successful in 2008 or 2009, right? It wouldn't work. It's still not the moment now. right? We were still too early. Luckily enough, we just discarded that one and we went for the third one. And then we said, all right, let's create something that doesn't require a critical mass of people. Because the problem with social networks is we got this chicken and egg problem, whereby if you don't have enough demand, maybe you don't have enough supply, right? So if you don't have producers, like consumers, they will find no offer, right? And they will not join, and the other way around. So I said, let's create something we ourselves can use. And then we scouted the market and we found that there was not a cooking recipe app that was actually usable. Most of the cooking recipes app on the market, they were either feature creeps that were created 10 years ago, they looked like super ugly, super outdated, or they were too amateur and they were just unusable, or maybe they were not mobile, they were just on the web. I said, let's create that. And when we were about to release that thing and we're about to commit and all of that, Tim Cook goes and says, the app of the year for Apple is Cookbooth, and it's a company from Barcelona, by the way. And so they completely blew us out of the water, and with us, our aspirations. And we said, but that was the best learning of all. And sorry for the long answer, but it comes to a conclusion right now, which is, we learned that we were not good at having ideas. We learned that we were good at developing them. So we said, let's create something where we can develop other people's ideas. They will know how to generate the business. We'll bring the technical part, and that's it. And they will focus on creating revenue, creating growth, bringing in users, marketing, this and that, because we didn't know jack shit about that. But we knew how to develop really good applications, because all of our applications, these applications I mentioned, I mean, they're open source. You can find them on the internet. They look like really damn good technologically. We're very sound and stable and all of that. It's the kind of applications that we are now developing at MarsBased.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Oh wow, I'm tired.
So, how many people you started the business?
So I mentioned that we were 4 in the beginning, but with one of them we didn't come to an agreement, which is one of the hard parts of actually making business with your friends, right? Doing business with your friends. But it came to a question of priorities. 3 of us, we really wanted to commit to this full time and go for it, and for the other person was not. It was like, I will do it on the free time, on my spare time, whenever I've got some, minutes to waste, and then we decided to create a company without him, right? We're still in good terms and everything, but just that you need to set up the expectations and align your priorities with your
Both
company.
of you 3 were co-founders
Yes.
of the company, and
Yeah.
right now you're also co-founders.
Exactly. So we are 3 co-founders. I've got a technical co-founder who's our CTO, and I've got an operations co-founder who's our COO nowadays. And we have a split of like a third each.
And then how much time after that we started going people and developing?
The initial idea was to create a company just to be the 3 of us. And we didn't want to grow. We said like, we'll set it up and we'll work as freelancers. It's perfect, right? One guy doing front end, one guy doing back end, because these 2 guys, they're both developers. I mean, the 3 of us are developers, but this said we'll do front end and back end. And I said like, and what do I do? Because I'm a developer, but they wanted to work with this technology that's Ruby on Rails, because they used to work together. And I'm a Java developer, so like, oh no, you're not going to develop. So like, what do you mean you're not going to develop? Like, oh, but you speak English, you like traveling, you'll do sales. Great recipe for disaster. Have you ever heard this? So it turned out to be great. Because I have been spending time in doing community management at some organizations. I co-founded in the past, and then did some business things, and more like in the consulting part. I like talking to people, and I like talking to clients and customers and meeting partners and all of that. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. And I said, we'll have 6 months. If we don't find a client in 6 months, we close the company. So the initial expectations were very low. First company, working with friends, and the initial hypothesis was really catastrophic. As in, we would work in a remote working company, so no office. I would be the only person that would be full-time, but my 2 co-founders, they were keeping their jobs. So they were working on weekends and stuff. They were working, but they wouldn't be able to meet clients maybe, right? We would do only web development and only Ruby on Rails, so one technology versus all these other companies that do all the technologies in the market. And it would be like expensive. we would charge 50 euro per hour, right? And at the time, the average was like 20, 25 euro per hour in Barcelona. It would be 50 for whatever reason, right? And I said, like, we've got all of these constraints. Do you think we're going to find a fucking client in 6 months? No way. Through this, we did find clients, and in 6 months, we had already hired 2 people because we got a really relevant. So our first client was a small restaurant in San Francisco, which will bring me to maybe another question after this. If you want to ask like some fuck ups, feel free to do it. I'm ready to share all my fuck ups. But shortly after that, we got the Barcelona City Hall as a client, and we developed the Barcelona Startup Map. And that's a project that gave us a lot of visibility. And therefore, from there, we could say like, hey, we're the guys who developed this. But at this time, when we had developed this project and the client knew it, my 2 partners were still keeping their daily jobs, and they were doing it overtime and the weekends. We're 100% transparent on that. Maybe that's why we didn't get other clients, but we got that one because they wanted to help the company and see if that could help us to then incorporate full-time and just, you know. And shortly in that very event, I met a person, a crazy Finnish guy. Hi, Kari. You'll see this video. No, it's not here. It's for the video. So this crazy Finnish guy goes like, I've got some projects, and I've got a development team in somewhere in the Balkans, and I think they're ripping me off. Can you help me can you audit the code? Can you check the situation? And so I'm like, yeah, we could do it. So we go there, we get into the code, we check, and we find out that basically these guys are not ripping him off. They're absolutely ripping the fuck off of this guy, right? Because they were taking 2 years to complete a project that we developed in 3 months, right? And so he says like, all right, then consider yourself hired. I want you to take these projects, these 2 projects from now on, right away, like 24 hours. And I was like, we don't have the capacity, that requires 5 people full time. I was like, okay, how much time did it? A couple weeks to hire a couple of people. And so we started, and that was one of the, let's say, kickstarting projects that made us go north. All right. And we're getting some questions, right?
I have a question. Some of us also want to develop global businesses.
Yes.
You mentioned that the first client was a restaurant from San Francisco.
Yes, I skipped one part. After I quit my corporate job, I decided I had sort of a mental breakdown. It sounds worse, it's not like that. I'm exaggerating, of course. But I wanted to start again in another city, in another country, learning from another sector. And I said, I want to have something to do with the startups. I will move to San Francisco, and I moved there on like Christmas Day 2013. So I flew in like 25th of December. You guys are with your families, right? And 25th of December. I'm not a family guy. So I flew to San Francisco on an empty plane. That was really great. I arrived there, it's like 30 degrees, crazy. So you would see like, how it has to be the guy Santa Claus and like a Christmas tree, 30 degrees. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I decided to spend my visa, my tourist visa there. So 3 months in San Francisco, trying to get my visas off the ground, trying to find clients for MarsBased, and absorbing as much knowledge as possible because I was in the cradle of entrepreneurship, right? So I would go to events, I would go to meetups, I would just like meet random people and try to, I asked for some introductions and just go to meet people just to say, hey, I'm creating this, it's my first company, tell me how I should do it and in which way I can help you, right? Which is, by the way, where I found about Startup Grind, because I attended the Startup Grind and that led me to get the chapter. But long story short, one of the people I met there, I went to this, so are you familiar, how many people are here into tech? Like developers and stuff? That's right. So I went to this tech meetup for Ruby on Rails because that's the technology we do. So basically it's a room like this with 100 nerds, right? Like me. And they want to eat pizza and drink beer and talk technology like, hey, this framework is so great. I spent my entire weekend working on this framework. Like, great. They're like, wow, you're such a cool dude, right? So I went there, and there was somebody presenting some company. I think it was SendGrid, and I asked a question to the guy. I introduced myself. Hey, I'm Alex. I'm founder of MarsBased, a Ruby on Rails consulting company from Barcelona. Blah blah. And so one guy in the audience, which is really fun, he went to our website and sent his resume because he wanted to work for our company. So I received the emails like, I'm sorry, dude, we're not even a company yet. We haven't even incorporated. Therefore, we have no jobs and no projects at all, right? But I met him, and he said like, oh, maybe then you can help me because I'm a freelancer and I've got too many clients, and one of them needs a website. Maybe you can do it. And so we did this website for a Spanish restaurant in San Francisco.
It's nice.
Yeah, somebody's calling me.
It's not mom. And you said that you hired 2 people.
Yes.
And then did they work remotely or you had an office?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. So our company today will be 5 years old in March. We still have got no office. We've got about it varies a little bit, between 16 and 20 people depending on the projects, right? We still have got no office and we don't plan to have one.
And people work remotely from home?
They work from home, they work from wherever they want.
And they're from Barcelona or from?
They're scattered around Spain. But we've had foreign people working for the company, foreign people who have moved to Barcelona, or people from Barcelona have moved abroad. So we have to discuss how much we want. We earn a decent salary with our conditions, and that's it. But the truth is, we're generating so much business that we decided to hire people. The first hire actually came before one of my partners incorporated full-time to the company, and he's one of my best friends. So I used to work with him and in my previous company, and so when I was working with him and we were meeting for beers and whatnot, and he would say like, I've been 6 years in this company, I want to quit, I might take one sabbatical, or I will just, like he said, literally, if I stay for one more month in this company, I'm gonna cut my veins open. Yeah, it's like that. He's like that. He likes like dark humor and all of that. And so I said like, well, you don't know Ruby. Maybe we're a company that we've got like 3 months of salary to pay you right now, but the company is going well. If we lost our 3 clients now, we would still be able to pay you for 3 months. Maybe that's not the kind of job you want, but if you're willing to give it a try, and say like, yeah, let's do it. I said like, what? So yeah, I didn't even manage to convince him. He was really convinced. So he was our first hire. He's taken the company for almost 3 years. So he was working from home. And then shortly thereafter, we hired an intern just because we were offered an intern from one of the business schools, top business schools in Barcelona. And we said, okay, why not? Let's try it. Maybe he will be able to help us. And it was a great experience. So, and they were working from home.
I just want to make sure I got it right. You have 20 employees? Or?
Yeah, before I go into this, just one thing I forgot is 50% of the people reside in Barcelona. And so every Wednesday we meet in a co-working space. Why? Because when we hired the first person, he knew me, but he didn't know my partners. And we said, okay, let's meet once or twice a week in a co-working space so that he's familiar. He becomes familiar with and gets acquainted with the people he's working with. And whenever he's ready, we will stop doing it and everybody will just work from home again 100% of the time. But what happened? Like in 3 months or in 2 months, we hired an intern. I said, all right, let's keep doing this, and then we'll not hire anybody else, right? But the truth is, every 3 months we are hiring somebody. So, in every more or less 3-4 months, we have been hiring someone. So we have decided to stick with that tradition of having Wednesdays at the working place. The rest of the people that are not in Barcelona, we meet every 2 months. We fly them to Barcelona for a couple of days that we call the Martian days, where we do it's a company presentation, hands-on session with the founders, we do some social activities, workshops, seminars, and things like that. And now to your next question.
For me, it's very impressive that you can gather a team,
yeah,
but not work with them in the same office. At least for Moldova, that sounds like from Mars. And there was a question from the room. How do you keep them motivated?
I'm sorry, but I think you asked the thing about like the number of employees we've got?
Yes.
Yeah, very briefly. Yeah, so we've got 12 people full-time on a permanent contract. We do have between 4 and 6 freelancers working on and off for the company, mostly on, because we do have lots of projects, but sometimes during holidays and this and that, then we do a week, and they decide to stop for a while, for a couple months. And then we decided to count people of Startup Grind Barcelona, because it's a project that we have incorporated into the company also as part of the team. So yeah, give or take, we could say that we have 20 people. Some people will most likely never leave their home, right? If they're developers, especially. Like, I do business development, so I meet people when I go to events and things like that. So I'm able to go to the street and just go to other people's offices. But if you're a pure developer, you will not need to leave the office, that office being your home, right? And you will just leave it because of your family. So that's one, and the other is motivation. But I think motivation, you can just like keep it up if you're, we never had any sort of problem with this, because I think our environment, our working environment, the relationships we've got are really positive, in the sense that we have got a lot of communication. We do all these dynamics whereby, we do the Martian days, we go to a conference together once a year, we do a company retreat. This year we went, the whole company, almost a week in Dublin. We go to the startup grind events, we do open source, we do hackathons in the company, and we've got other things that we do in the company to kind of like keep things going. It was really fun this year, because we normally try to have always somebody in the company working over the holidays during summer, right? And so this guy, for a couple of days, he was the only person working in the company, because the schedules didn't overlap and things like that. And so we said, wow, those 2 days, I felt like really alone in the office. I said, dude, we've got no office, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's like, but that's positive, because the rest of the year, it doesn't feel like you're working from home, because we're always in constant communication with the rest of the team. And we're always doing, on Thursdays, the developers, they just meet and talk about stuff for 1 hour. They just comment on like, hey, this implementation or this function in Ruby or whatever, right? And they talk about that, and then they write blog posts, and then they do other dynamics. So it doesn't feel like you're working from home to cut down on costs, which is not why we do it. It's you work from home because we want you to work in the best environment that's possible.
Okay, and there is one more question, I think, from Sergio about how do you handle people working remotely from the process side of things?
From the process?
Yes.
Our processes, I think they are not so complicated. As in, we are a company that's got very basic principles, one of them being simpler is better. So we try to avoid as much as possible bureaucracy, long workflows, long and heavy processes, right? So most of our developers, they just get onboarded in the project to start working on developing. The founders work on so my partners and I work on the sales and on onboarding the client, and very rarely we involve the developers in this part of the company, right? Our developers know that's very simple. Our developers know that their job is to develop, and if they want to do something else, they need to stand up and say it, right? So if a developer wants to be part of the process of writing the blog, he comes to me and says like, hey, I've written this blog post, blah blah blah. But it will not be me saying like you will be writing on the blog from now on, because then maybe that would be motivation problem, or maybe they're just not used to do it, and therefore they would just kind of like stop the processes or make it more sluggish and slower, right? So we try to involve them in all the things that are really they really motivate them. For instance, one of them said he came up with the idea of going on a company retreat. And we said like, okay, great idea. You go and you implement it. And he did it. And he's done it twice in a row, right? In 2 years in a row. And so this way, I think we avoid involving people in processes they wouldn't feel comfortable with.
As far as I understood, you involve 1 or 2 people in a project.
Yes.
Not more projects.
Our biggest project, I think it's got 3 people. So it's normally 1 or 2 people per project, yes.
And they can handle the project the way they want, they can work at which hour they want.
Yes, we have a policy whereby we just hire senior people, and even though that sounds a little bit arrogant, it's because we don't want to have to teach people how to work remotely. The chances are that if you're a junior developer, you need to learn 2 things. First, the tech side of things, and then how to manage yourself in a management environment, right? In a working company. But senior people are already responsible enough to manage themselves, to communicate with clients, to communicate with the bosses, and to know how to behave in a company. So at most they have to learn about the tech side of things, right? And sorry, I lost the. What was the question again?
I also forgot it. But another question came up to my mind.
Yeah.
People work remotely. When they are hired, they receive like a package with a laptop and basic
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Is that an Apple laptop?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Funnily enough, it is.
Do they sign a document that they receive this and they
Yeah.
work for you? Is it legal? Everything?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We don't do. There's one thing I'd like to point out here: is we don't do illegal stuff. Nothing.
Just checking.
After the camera is switched off, we can talk about it. But
I forgot about the camera.
when the camera is on, everything we do is legal. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's not easy to have an office-less company in Spain because some laws understand that every company has got an office. And therefore, certain things like human resources, that you need to take some trainings, because I think it's mandatory that every year, every employee of your company takes a course on risk prevention. And that risk prevention is find the closest emergency exit on your building, of your office. It's like, well, you need to know where the fire extinguishers are. It's like, doesn't apply, right? And things like this. These things are so outdated that they don't even contemplate that people work with laptops. So it's like they assume that still working with a mouse and a keyboard and like a, you know, the whole structure of a physical screen and things like that. And because there's part of the risk prevention is the way you're sitting, the way you're facing and staring at the screen and conditions like that. So they're not adapted to people working with a laptop. So that brings me to the thing about like the welcome package. So the welcome package is, yes, they do receive a laptop, which they have to give back if for whatever reason we have to fire them or they decide to switch jobs or whatever. But in most of the cases, after a couple of years, if you've been working for the company, we just give it to you because, you know, because you either deserve it or there's like better computers in the market, and maybe you will just like you keep the old ones, right? And the new people will get the new ones. No, and this thing is really cool. So our, do you guys know this company called Basecamp? Raise your hand if you know Basecamp. If you don't know Basecamp, you can leave. Basecamp is a really cool company. It's one of our favorite companies. It started as an agency like us, but they found out that they needed a project management tool, and they developed it, and it has become sort of one of the standards in the industry, right? And they wrote a couple of books. Now they've written the third one. One is called Rework, which teaches you how to work in a nowadays environment, like not even remotely, but more efficiently. Like, hey, so shorter meetings, no laptops in meetings, no email, this and that, like really common sense, but nobody has put it so succinctly and clearly in a book. And the other one is remote, no office required, because they're one of the biggest companies that advocates for remote working. So we give these two books to every employee of the company. And because if they read them, and they're really fast to read, they will understand 90% of the things of why we do and how we do things at our company. Because our company culture is entirely based on that foundation.
Can you tell us more about the company culture, about your values, about your vision?
Yeah. It's been clear from the get-go that we wanted to work on a quality-driven company, because most of the consulting companies in Spain, development companies in Spain, they're not very good at producing quality, right? They do lots of things, and they do lots of things very badly, but they are not good at excelling at what they do, right? We said, let's focus on the less is more philosophy, and simpler is better, and we'll just work with one backend language, one front-end language, so Ruby, Rails, and JavaScript, but we will do it fucking well, right? And we try to focus on the excellence of the code and the excellence of the delivery, which is oftentimes what is lacking in the consulting companies, right? They might be really good, but there's no communication with the client, therefore there's misalignment in the expectations, this is not what I requested, this took longer than expected, blah, blah, blah. So we try to solve all of this. So our company culture is based on a set of principles. One of them is being simpler is better, less is more, the quality before quantity, work remotely because that will allow you to work in the best conditions, and also we love to give back to the community, right? So that would be our company culture, and I think it's very ingrained in what we do. Normally, the company culture, you can have an idea at the very beginning and it helps to shape things, but the truth is, as you grow the company, it's the company culture that will find you, right? The way you operate. Because some of these things sounded really well for 3 people working in the company, but we didn't know they would work for 15 people, right? We were lucky, and we are lucky to say that everything we conceived in the beginning, it has consistently stayed over these 4.5 years, right? But some of the things could have changed, because we have changed a lot of things in the company.
There is one more question from in the room. What management do and do not can you share given your experience?
Yeah. So if I got it right, it's kind of like things to do and things not to do, right? Yes. Oh, one that's really critical is, if possible, talk as much as possible to your clients, because we live in a world that we've got constant influxes or pushes of notifications and things like that. It's very easy to forget things. Even more so in remote working environments, right? Where some of the clients we've been working for years we have never met in person, right? So everything we talk about with the client, and it's a decision. Let's say you and I agree to the project, and the project's gonna cost like 50K, it's gonna take like 3 months time, whatever. And then you call me one day and you say, I want to change this, perfect. And then you text me on WhatsApp, I also want to change this, great. Then you send me on Skype or an email, lots of things in multiple channels, right? You need to set that in stone and centralize that sort of communication in a platform. That's why we use Basecamp. Everything we agree on with the client, it goes to Basecamp. If it's not in Basecamp, it's not there. Therefore, if we fail to put in Basecamp, it might be our fault, but it's also our client's fault because they have not spotted it. They have not said, hey, what I told you the other day on the phone, it's not here. It's like, well, you didn't review it, right? And so if it's not Basecamp, it didn't happen, basically. Because sometimes they just send it over 3 different channels or 5 different channels. Slack, email, or Skype, WhatsApp, or call, or in a presential meeting, right? So that's one. It's talk as much as possible with your clients and try to make expectations clear and repeat things 5 times and they're like, yes, dude, you're being too heavy on this. Like, yeah, I know. I'm not an idiot, but basically it's because most people will forget about things. And the don'ts, I think that the don'ts would be, don't try to cut corners, never cut corners. It might be like a quick win, as in, we'll do something to get out of the way. We've got a conflict, right? The project didn't go well, but maybe I will not tell you. I'll tell you, oh yeah, we'll fix it very soon. And it ends up being like a situation that's very critical. It will take like, I don't know, a month to solve. If I tell you I'm gonna fix it in 2 days and it's not, I can't fix it in 2 days, I will lose you as a client and you will say shit about me to other people, right? So we're very upfront, we're very honest, we're very transparent with what we do, and whenever we fuck up, which is not very often, but we do it like every company, then we just communicate to the client and say like, hey, we did this, and these are the consequences, and this is how are we going to fix it, and if you want a compensation, this is it. But we never cut corners. We'll never try to shorten let's say, the delivery of a project because we want to make it in time, if that is detrimental to the quality of the delivery, right? Because I think that's a very common mistake. Oh, I don't want to lose money with this client. I will just take this part off. You will never notice. No, someday this time bomb is going to explode. So it's better to give all the information upfront.
Can you give us, also maybe this is not information for the camera, can you give us some numbers about the business? How many clients do you have?
Yeah, sure.
What's the revenue?
Yeah, transparency is also a core value of MarsBased, so I don't have any problem sharing numbers. I don't know the number of active clients we've got, but it should be in the range of like 6 or 10, something like that, right? We work on a retainer, so that means that some clients we've been working for 4 years now, month in, month out, because they book like one developer like 40 or 80 hours a week of our services, and we just keep working, right? So that's really good for business because it's long and stable relationships and it allows you to plan ahead. but it's detrimental in the fact that you're not able to onboard as many new clients as you wanted, because once you get a relationship like this, it's got no end. So most of our clients have got no end, right? It's not like finite projects where you say like 3 months project. No, they're like 80 hours per week. Boom, let's go.
You can grow, you can hire more.
You can hire more people, yes, but you need to find that client that wants to hire you in the right moment, when you can find this person that would join you in the exact week. So it's a little bit tricky. So we've got about like 6 or 10 clients that are working on a retainer. Our revenue is about €1 million, so we're expected to hit the million this year, €1 million. And what else? We charge between 60 and 70 euro per hour. So we have increased the price twice since we started. Actually, we were supposed to start with 40 euros an hour, but because I fucked up and I wrote 50 in the first contract, kind of like, I thought, maybe because it was not in Basecamp, it's like, did we say 40 or 50? All right, I'll write 50. And lucky for us, the client said yes, and we got it for 50, right? So it stayed like 50. And my partners were like, dude, we said 40, how did you do it? It's like, I fucked up, but it was a great fuck up. So, and then after a couple of years, when we had like decent amount of clients, we decided to raise our prices, 60, and this year we have increased to 70. And good news is that most of our clients, they have agreed to increase the price, even though it's, it's bad for them because it's more expensive. But they acknowledge that we really bring the value, that we are worth the money.
Okay. And there is one more question from the participants. How do you find your clients?
Normally, we are a pure inbound company. So the difference for those not acquainted with marketing is outbound companies are the ones who just like pick up the phone, do lots of sales, go knocking on doors. They're like, hey, give me projects. I want to do this. I can do like 10 million services and technologies, right? We are inbound. We tried this at the beginning. It didn't work because what are the chances that you will need high-end, specialized, only senior people doing Ruby on Rails? On web only in the beginning. Now we do also mobile, right? So it was not very likely. So we decided to build our strategy around inbound. So we are the company that you will find us. So we're kind of like a dentist, right? So you will come to us if something really hurts, and that's one. And the other is like you will most likely not Google it. You will ask to your friends like, hey, who's your developer? Who's your development agency, right? Who did that website for you? Because I need something like this. Or when you need to take your car to the mechanic, right? I was like, I ask for recommendations from my people. So that's the kind of company that we are. Very, very rarely, I think only 1 or 2 big clients we have gotten because I reach out to them. I say like, hey, we want to work for you because we're a good match. We know technologically it makes sense because you guys are Ruby and we are Ruby and blah, blah, blah. But normally it's them finding us on either, normally I bring about like 85-90% of the deals in the company because I do business development, so I go to events, I meet people, I do meetings here and there, so that, I find the opportunities, or the other percentage is either via the website. So our website ranks very well in this very specific keywords. Development Ruby on Rails Barcelona, development Ionic, Angular, whatever Barcelona. Or I would say lately it's social networks. So LinkedIn, a lot of people are finding me on LinkedIn since I started at the beginning of the year to post something every day to stay like top of the news feed for people, and it seems to work, seems to pay off. I thought LinkedIn was the social network only for HR people, but seems like there are some executives living there still.
So we can follow you on LinkedIn, Àlex.
Yeah, but I'm very intense. Every day I post something. So if you don't want, no, I'm not spammy. I think it's things of value. But if you're not in Barcelona, most of the things maybe relate to start in Barcelona.
It's regarded only to business, the things you're posting.
Oh yeah, definitely not, because it's still LinkedIn. It's like I'm not gonna post like, hey, this is the Sarmana meeting, right? So yeah. I will post I'm in Moldova because sometimes I did post it.
Yeah.
I did post it. I said because I'm in Moldova, maybe I know someone I want to meet, and maybe some of my business acquaintances are there, and I don't know it. So chances are, and normally I do this because I travel a lot. I travel like around 50% of my time. So sometimes I'm posting these very super naive and super white messages of like, hey, I'm in this city, who's here, who wants to meet me? There are people who reach out and meet, and it's funny, it's interesting.
So it's almost 8 p.m.
Oh wow.
And I have one more important question from my point of view.
Oh my god.
It's regarding the trends in your area of expertise and in the world, in
Yeah.
the business world, what are the next trends?
Well, there's one I'm gonna give like one for technical people, one for non-technical people, right? So one for technical people is, I think there's a trend of startups that will be built and are being built right now without any development at all. They're just connecting services, and that really freaks the shit out of me. Because you know, like Zapier, for instance, Zapier, or if this then that, there are two companies that basically connect services. As in, like, if this happens, then move these or send this into a Google spreadsheet. And when this spreadsheet is connected, then send an email to this person and mark this as done in Trello, for instance, right? So all of these triggers and conditions, and I've seen companies, there are a couple companies out there that are being built using this, and they have no back-end development at all. So basically, you know, they're just interconnecting services, and I think this will become a trend, and I'm personally trying it myself. I am sort of developing things that I need, but I said, I'm going to refrain, I will not develop them, I'll just implement them using and connecting services that already exist. Which is, in a way, it's dangerous, because if one of them shuts down, then your business goes to hell. But then again, it's a common situation in the business industry. And the other one for non-technical people, I think that we'll see more and more businesses built around community, right? One of the ways I think some companies are standing out nowadays and are being successful is because they managed to have a really strong community. Obviously, my opinion is biased because I'm part of Startup Grind, but I'm not going to talk about that. But for instance, Product Hunt. You know Product Hunt? Where like this company that basically highlights or allows you to promote your startup, your new product, whatever. And they have millions of people around the, well, maybe not millions, but like thousands of people around the globe organizing meetups with no pay, just to be able to say like, I'm the Product Hunt and this Product Hunt guy in Barcelona, Madrid, in whatever city, right? And this helps the company to grow farther, right? SendGrid is doing more or less the same. They're like Dribble, the kind of portfolio, I think, for designers. It's really powerful in community. And for me, now that, so back in the day, their differentiation points between a company and another would be the pricing, would be the features, and now there's also the community. Like GitHub wouldn't be GitHub without the community, right? And that's the main difference between GitHub and probably Bitbucket or GitLab, or other more, maybe I know more examples on the technical side of things. But I think the companies right now are betting really hard on building community, because they know that the community can give them an extra boost where the VCs or the clients might not take them, but they can sort of outsource or crowdsource part of their growth to the community.
And now, since it's 8 p.m. and I want to keep it short, let's see if there are any questions from the participants. Okay,
There are actually some questions over there.
Yes, me too, but I want to make sure they're still active. Sergio?
Yeah.
I don't know this guy, who let him in?
You mentioned you had some fuck-ups that you wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
and probably lessons learned from that.
But we want to keep it short. So, I can say as many as you want. In any specific area, or
Okay, business development.
business development? As in, like, for instance, a typical one would be don't do anything without a contract, right? It's common sense, friends, but we did it. First project, small company, this company from San Francisco. In San Francisco, you would think they do everything with a contract. No. Spanish owners, by the way. Be very wary of Spanish companies. So the thing is, they didn't want to sign a contract, and I said like, well, it's a small project. It was under 1,000 euros, so it's nothing crazy. But for us, we were starting. It was like, wow, 1,000 euros better than nothing, right? And it was a website only. It's not like we're not developing freaking Facebook for 1,000 euros, which would be a ripoff. But so it was great. And so there was a down payment to start up front, and which was great. They paid. But then we delivered the project, and turns out that they decided to change their lives because they like somehow the business owner got pregnant, they wanted to have a child, whatever, and they said like, oh, we're moving back to Spain, we're closing the restaurant. Sorry, we're not paying for the freaking website. And like, what do you mean you're not paying? It's not a huge amount of money, but at least I'm happy to have done that mistake that early in the company, right? We did other bigger ones, and I'm going to share a bigger one, which is you should really, really, really stop working when a client starts to not pay you, right? If a client starts to get like a little bit late, I mean, if they've been paying for 2 years, you can say like, maybe it's, it's kind of like, oh, they will come back, right? But 1 month they don't pay, and the second month they don't pay, it's like, well, that should raise a red flag everywhere, right? Well, it's like, well, whatever, we don't have other clients, we'll keep working on this, and that's it. And we talked to them, they were very nice, like, sorry, we don't have the funding will come soon, blah, blah, blah. Truth is, funding never came, they had to shut down. And so we lost a few months of work. We stretched it too much. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think we stretched that too much for like, I think we stretched it like 6 months, something like 5, 6 months. We should have stopped at the first month. And that's what we do now. But yeah, we lost, that was not 1,000 euros, that was slightly bigger, a couple of zeros more.
And I think there was one more question. There were 2 questions.
Like what brought you to Moldova?
No. Tell us about your hobbies, about what you do in your free time.
Wow, I do a lot of things. One of my hobbies is concerts, and I'm a metalhead, so I love music, and very specifically loud and hard and fast music like punk and metal, right? So I spend a lot of money and a lot of time in concerts. I try to go to at least 1 concert per week, and at least 6 festivals per year. The festivals, I started like 3 years ago. I started like really late in my musical career, right? I'm a frustrated guitar player. That's why I go to concerts, because like at least I will hear good music now, given that I'm not able to play it. So that's one of my hobbies. The other one is football. I enjoy it more than watching it, even though we've got the best football team in the world, of course. But I like it because it's brain numbing, right? So everybody needs a distraction that sort of like numbs your brain, and it relaxes you. It keeps you like, I don't want to think now. Some people like TV, or some people do drugs, or some people like, I don't know, they do meditation, whatever. And so I watch football or I play football. So in this sense, I probably have got other hobbies, but I would need to think about it. These 2 stand out more. Well, obviously traveling. I travel a lot, and that's one of my hobbies. But precisely it's because I have a remote working company. You can exploit it more and more, and I can work from wherever I want. That's why I decided to come here not just for 1 day, the day of the event, and staying until Sunday. So I can work from here, and that gives me the possibility of getting to know more people and visiting more places and actually enjoying the places more than just flying in, giving the talk, and flying out.
And where do you see your company in a couple of years? What is the vision?
This is
the dream.
Yeah. Well, the vision is to be about like 25-30 people maximum, because if we want to. So our vision is to have like the best Ruby developers and have only senior people, and still being focused on the high-end quality delivery and all of that. And we think that beyond that number, we have to add more management, hire junior people or interns, this and that. So it kind of like contradicts the initial message. There's one cool thing I want to share with you. That's a really good experiment we did with my partners. So the day we incorporated the company, I told them to email me, where do you see yourself and the company in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, right? And I programmed emails into the future with those answers, right? So after 1 month, we received an email with, hey, this is what each one of us said. Obviously, after 1 month, it was easy to predict, right? So where are you going to be next month? You can probably tell me, right? I know where I'm going to be next month, and the company will not change substantially. After 3 months, we had already surpassed and exceeded the expectations, right? After 6 months, we said something like, oh, we will maybe have our first client. After 6 months, we had already 2 employees. We had 4 or 5 clients. So obviously we exceeded expectations. And last year we received the 3 years, and the 3 years was so far apart, like so far off, it was not even funny. Because after 3 years, it was like, maybe we'll have 2 employees, things like that, or 4. We had like 11 employees, right, last year. So, and I don't remember. The good thing about the 5 years one, which we're gonna receive in March, April 2019, is that I have completely forgotten what the content of the message was. I think it said something about we'll be like partying our asses off in Bahamas or something like that, and we'll be like a multinational, 10,000 employees. No, I'm just kidding. But I certainly don't remember, and it will be a great accomplishment for me to receive that email, like, because I wasn't sure whether the company was going to survive 1 year. I said, we made this commitment for 6 months, then we extended for 1 year, and I said, I don't know if we will survive 1 year, but if we receive the email for the 3 years, we'll receive the 5 years one. I was completely sure. And, you know, I look forward to that one. Also, the funny thing about 5 years, this 5 year cycle, is you survive your credit card. So we will have outlived our first company credit card, which is like a huge accomplishment. And I'm so happy. I want to see that fucking credit card die. It's like, yes, we made it. 5 years. Let's go for 5 more years.
That's nice.
Thank you.
And now the final question.
All right.
Final
The
question.
hard questions.
Most of us came here to listen to the question, to the answer to this question. Is why did you came to Moldova?
Do you want the politically correct one? No. No, of course, you're not here for this. And no, the thing is, first of all, we've got a Moldovan in our team, right? In Starbuck in Barcelona. She works at Dow Jones. She's a research associate, I think. And I interviewed the VP of Dow Jones in February, and I got to know their team, and they wanted to get more involved with startups, and one of them, Stella, was actually a friend with Sergio, and she said, I want to volunteer for you guys. But that's not the answer to your question, and you know it, because I met your former chapter director, Sergio Matei, in San Francisco. We do a global conference in San Francisco every year, where we try to meet all the rest of chapter directors in the world, right? And I'm the chapter director for Barcelona, and then there's a chapter director from Madrid, Rome, Lisbon, whatever. We meet in San Francisco. And Sergio has always been super friendly, super nice, and I was excited because I had only met one Moldovan in my life. It was not a pleasant surprise, and it was not a great experience, right? It was somebody I studied with at high school, and he didn't speak language, and we stayed there for a week in classroom, right? So it was like, well, maybe not the best experience. So I met Sergio, became like really easily very good friends with him. We started talking. Oh man, one day you should come to Moldova. I was like, yeah, I love traveling. I need to go there. One of my dreams in life is to be in every country in the world. And he said, and last year we were planning that I should have come here in July last year, but we couldn't coordinate agendas and all of that. We decided to postpone it. And I thought that was never going to happen. I thought they were just like, punishing me for not coming here. It's like, if you didn't want to come, let's forget about it. But I did send somebody in my stead. I remember I sent another speaker, David Tomas from Barcelona. He came here, right? But anyways, he really caught my attention and now comes the hard part, which some people will not like this, but Sergio did a really, really nice presentation about how it is to set up and run a startup chapter in a difficult country, right? He didn't use this expression. I'm not going to replicate it, but he started the presentation by saying, Moldova, top 10 least visited country in the world. And we've got this, we've got things like Transnistria, we've got like whatever, like things that were probably not the best scenario for economic growth and stability and all of that, right? And I said, like, dude, I really want to go there. Like, it sounds. I know it sounds stupid. I'm sorry, but I want to see all the countries in the world, and I feel much more attached to smaller countries. Probably because in my region, Barcelona is the capital of a region that wants to separate from Spain. So we kind of we envy smaller countries. We want to be a smaller country. Other countries want to be bigger countries. We want to be a smaller country. And I find myself, I have better experiences when I'm in a country that it doesn't feel like being in Deloitte, right? I went to Thailand this year, and it felt like so touristy, massified, gentrified. It felt like everything was plastic, was so fake, was, I don't know, I didn't enjoy it at all. But last year I went to Cape Verde. How many people here have been to Cape Verde? Nobody. Like, I don't know anyone who's been to Cape Verde. Only one ex-girlfriend I had who recommended me that I go there. And I had one of the best times of my life, right? It felt so authentic. People are not so welcome to, they are very welcome. They're not so used to having foreigners, therefore they just like adopt you and like take you to their homes and like show you around, and they're so enthusiastic. And I am this kind of person. Even though Barcelona is the most touristic place in the world, whenever any of you comes to Barcelona, let me know. I'll take you around. Like I do guided tours. I'll take you around and we'll be walking for 12 hours a day, right? I'm that kind of person.
I will.
You will? Great, let's do it. Let's do it. And I'm that kind of person. I'll take you, I'll bring you to the secret spots, I'll take you to the cheapest bars and really good restaurants. And most of all, you will avoid the tourist traps, right? So because I am that kind of person, I like it when countries feel like this. And my favorite, what's that?
I have to go to Camp Nou.
Yeah, it's sort of a tourist trap, but there's one really good thing about it. I'll tell you when you come. My favorite country in the world is Greece. You know, maybe you were expecting, it's Spain. No, it's not Spain. My friends, it's not Spain. If you're from Barcelona, maybe it's not Spain. No, just kidding. But Greece, for me, it's like an amazing country because every time I go there, I feel like I'm among my family. Their DNA is to be welcoming, is to take you to their places. They want to show you their house, the house where their parents lived, and all of that. And I'm this kind of person. So therefore, I want to feel. I think people from smaller countries or countries that are not so touristic, they share more values with me. And that's why precisely I wanted to come here, because that's what I perceive from Sergio, from Stella, so the Moldovan in our team, and other Moldovans I've met, is like, I have a great impression and I have, an intuition that will have a really good time.
Alex, thank you very much for accepting to be our guest at this event. I would like to say that Alex will be here for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, DreamUps and Founder Institute is organizing an event, mentoring with Alex from 10:30 to 2:30. 8 startups can have opportunity to discuss with Alex the business idea, each 20 minutes. So if you want to participate at this event, go to DreamUps or Founder Institute page and register to speak with Alex. This being said, I want to thank you for coming here. I don't know if we have any pizza left, but you can, we have...
Great, cold pizza. Great.
Yes.
Cold pizza, warm beer, it's even better.
You can also ask Alex some more questions if you're here. So thank you one more time, and let's...
I got one last thing for you, if you allow me, is I've flown all the way from Barcelona. Like, guys, use me. I challenge you to tell me how can I help you, right? If there's anything I can do to help your companies, your startups, your projects, just let me know. Reach out to me through these fantastic people. I want to sit down for coffee, or let's meet. I'll be in the center. So until Sunday noon, something like that, I'm here. And I'll be pretty busy with your agenda, but I can always sneak in some coffee or beer. I'm not a wine guy, I'm sorry. But perfect, thank you.